I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. So, this was a very chaotic game, I will just say. Pistons play their division rivals, Chicago, tonight, Chicago Bulls. No Cade Cunningham, no Jalen Duren, as we know, no Tobias Harris. Harris LeVert did come back after missing a couple of games, but Cade Cunningham had a wrist contusion, so a wrist bruise. Saw that he did have like a little bit of a sling on his hand, so hopefully it's nothing serious. Don't really know how severe the bruise is, but you were without three starters tonight. Obviously, the Bulls were without Josh Giddey and Kobe White and other players, but this was a game where very early we saw that it was going to be a transition game for the Bulls. They're ranked the third best paced team in the NBA. So they like to run up and down the court, and you saw that all night. And I think the one player that just stepped up, and we're probably going to be talking about him in the Q&A section later part of the podcast, is Isaiah Stewart. Stu just did such a good job of attacking Nikola Vucevic all night, understanding that, one, we know Nikola Vucevic is not a defender by any means. He's more known for his offensive versatility, I would say. But Stu was just attacking him all night. He had 11 points in the first quarter alone. And within the last 4 minutes, the Pistons kind of turned it up offensively. They closed the first quarter with a 13-6 run. Something to note, though, with the starting lineup for people that were wondering, Jaden Ivey got his first start tonight at point guard, which I was kind of surprised by. Duncan Robinson, no change there at the shooting guard position. Asar Thompson, Paul Reed, and Isaiah Stewart. So Ivey was really the only player that was new in this starting lineup since we have had injuries with Tobias and Duren. But Cade was kind of like he was probable and he was questionable, and then he was just out. So I think the Pistons saw that they were playing the Bulls. They're like, hey, Cade, we're going to give you a day of rest, which I think, it's not like saying he couldn't have played today. I think it was just very clever scheduling by the Pistons in terms of getting their guy some rest. I'm sure he'll probably be good to go by Saturday against the Clips. Going into the second quarter, the Bulls just opened up on a 10-4 run. The Pistons really couldn't generate anything offensively in the half court. And it just is becoming a theme when the Pistons play a team like Chicago that likes to run up and down the court. You saw it against Miami. When they play a team that likes to run just as much as they do have a little bit of trouble getting back defensively in transition. I think that's one area of improvement that I think the Pistons can get better at. The Bulls looked to take the pain away. They were clogging the lane, so the Pistons really couldn't generate anything whatsoever. Pistons were very fortunate, I thought, to have a 2-point lead going into halftime. They did get a little bit more fast break opportunities the last 90 seconds of the quarter, but they were up 2 at halftime, 52-50. Coming out of halftime, Bulls go on a 16-5 run within 4 minutes of this third quarter. Stu kept them in the game, hitting 3-pointers, banging down low in the post. He just kind of kept the game within reach because the Bulls did have a 7-5 point lead, but we really couldn't generate any looks whatsoever in the half court because Chicago took a lot of the transition and the running opportunities away. I don't really think this game turned around until after the jump ball midway through the third quarter. Ron Holland won the jump, and it seemed like the energy just picked up with Ron, Javante, Stu, Asar, and the Pistons were able to get within one. They ended the third quarter 77-76. So they really clawed and scratched. And I thought the fourth quarter, they absolutely turned it up. Jazz Lanier got some minutes, which I was kind of surprised he didn't get minutes earlier, considering that this team was really struggling to score in the half court. But Stu had a career night. He had a career high of 31 points. Javante Green gave the Pistons some big minutes. And it was great to see Dennis Jenkins as well. And the thing with him is we'll get into it when we look at the box score, just the way he was passing the ball tonight. He was looking to set up his teammates. And I rave about the guy every time he plays. He's just such a good point guard. He's a natural point guard, and you love to see it. Pistons beat Chicago 108-93. That is 3 wins. So you had one against Cleveland, the Knicks in Chicago. You have the Clippers on Saturday, which I think will be a game that a lot of us will be paying attention to because the last time we played the Clippers out in LA, Kawhi went nuclear, had career high 55 points against the Pistons. It'll be interesting to see what team shows up. But I think particularly this game for 3-ish quarters, I didn't know if they were going to win it. I didn't know if they had it. I think multiple times defensively tonight, they weren't even guarding the 3-point line. The Bulls did hit some threes. Granted, they missed some too. But, I mean, I think you have to be more locked in and focused defensively. And JB touched on that in his post-game presser that, like, if we're going to win games, we got to play defense. And I thought the fourth quarter was excellent. They only allowed the Bulls to score 16 points, but you need more consistency. And I understand Cade was out. I understand you're without Duran and Tobias, but we've seen the bench pieces and the depth of this team step up. I just thought defensively wasn't really there until like really late in the third quarter and the whole fourth. But that's just kind of my take on this game tonight. Want to get into the box score, and then we'll open up the show to comments and questions. Let's get to the box score tonight. So Duncan Robinson in 23 minutes had 12 points, shot 4 of the 9 from the field, 4 to 7 from 3, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 block. He was a -1 in the plus-minus. Paul Reed, 26 minutes. Stuffed the stat sheet as he usually does. 9 points, 4 to 10 from the field, 1 out of 3 from 3. That 3-pointer, man, like, that would be called glass. I don't know if you guys saw it in the first half. He shot a 3 and it hit the window. It was just like, anytime you hit a 3 and it goes off glass, if you're not trying to hit it off glass, I almost feel like it's luck. But hey, we'll take it, right? He also had 6 rebounds and 6 assists, 1 steal. He was a +1 in the plus-minus. Isaiah Stewart, like we had talked about earlier, in 30 minutes, career high, 31 points, very efficient from the field, 14 out of 17, 2 out of 3 from 3, 1 out of 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He was a +9. You really saw his impact on both ends of the floor tonight. Jaden Ivey in 20 minutes had 8 points. He was 3 out of 7 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover. He was a -6 in the plus-minus. Sar Thompson in 29 minutes had 11 points, 5 out of 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He was a +3. Going to the bench unit, Tolu Smith had 1 rebound in 1 minute. He got garbage time. Ron Holland in 26 minutes had 11 points, 5 out of 11 from the field, 1 for 3, 5 rebounds, 1 block, 3 offensive rebounds, was a +12 off the bench for the Pistons. Javonte Green, 11 points in this one, 4 to 9 from 3, 1 for 5 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 steals. He was a +16 in this one. Feel like every game the guy just has at least a steal or 2. Karis LeVert, his first action back in a couple of days, 12 minutes, 5 points, 2 out of 4 from the field, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. He was a +4. Marcus Sasser played 7 minutes. Didn't really do anything tonight outside of a rebound and 1 missed shot, which was a 3-pointer. Chaz Lanier had 12 minutes, 8 points, 3 out of 5 from the field, 1 rebound, 1 assist, but he was a +16 in this one. And Danis Jenkins, look, this is a hell of a stat line. So he only scored once, 2 points, 1 out of 8 from the field, 6 rebounds, 15 assists, you guys, with 1 turnover, 1 steal, +20 in the plus-minus. 15 assists is crazy coming off the bench. Like, it honestly is. The broadcast said the last time that the Pistons had a reserve for coming off the bench to have at least 14-plus assists in a game was Ish Smith. So Danis joins a Pistons favorite in Ish Smith, but 15 assists on 1 turnover, that was crazy. Like, I didn't even know that he had that many assists until like they brought it up. I was like, wow, like I didn't really even realize he had that many. But um, he was finding different ways to impact the game, and you love that. When your shot's not falling, find different ways to help your team win. Going into the team stats as a whole, Pistons shot 49% from the field, 36% from three, 12 out of 33. As of late, they have been making more three-point shots, so that is a trend that we like to see. Now, we have seen games this year where it has been just free throw battles. I cannot say I've seen free throw numbers this low ever. Bulls got to the line. They made 6 out of 9 free throws. The Pistons got to the line 6 out of 8 free throws. These guys were just letting them play. Like Bill Kennedy and the entire officiating crew, they were not calling anything. They were just letting these guys play. And honestly, as someone that grew up watching Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace era type of basketball, even Grant Hill a little bit before he did get traded to Orlando, like I actually like that. Just like let the guys play. Pistons did get out rebounded by Chicago, 45-39. The Bulls crashed the glass for 15 offensive rebounds. Pistons had 35 assists in this one, 10 steals, 8 blocks, only 9 turnovers. Love to see that. They were taking care of the basketball tonight. Only 11 fast break points. Still got 62 points in the paint, even though Chicago tried to limit that. And only 14 fouls. Bulls had 15. That was just a very low foul game. Like I can't remember in recent memory the last time I've seen just a game like that where there just wasn't a whole lot of fouls from either side of the game, where like one team only had like 10 fouls and the other team had 10 fouls as well. Usually it's kind of lopsided, but I do want to get into the Q&A of this podcast, open forum. If you're brand new here, you want to drop a question down below, more than welcome to. This is part of the podcast where we just take your questions. I am just going to go through these really quick, and we will be right back after I'm done reading these and going through them, guys. Okay, you guys, we are back. Appreciate you waiting as I go through these comments in the live chat right now. If you're watching on YouTube, want to get into Piston Fan 11. He does get the first comment of this post game show, and he has a comment about Chaz Lanier. It says Chaz Lanier has looked good. Does he look more confident to you as the season goes along in a limited minutes? Yes, he seems a little bit more under control. Not to say that he's ever been like, out of control or like just not processed the game at an elite level. I think the one thing with him, and the reason why I fell in love, like watching him when I was doing pre-draft coverage, is like he's just a really good offensive talent. Like he can shoot threes. You saw him put it on the floor. He's not a traffic cone defensively, but I think going down in the G League and just dropping 30 points on them didn't hurt his confidence whatsoever. I mean, his number isn't called a whole lot, and anytime he does go out there, I feel like he's always producing. And like he's a guy that I think can definitely be a rotation piece going forward in the future with the Pistons. I mean, you could never have enough three-point shooters, and I feel like JB is going to have a really difficult decision because I feel like right now there are like 3 guys that he rotates with. It's Dennis, Marcus, and Chaz. And like they all can score. They can all shoot threes. I can see JB kind of like having to decide, like, okay, you're not feeling it tonight. I'm going to play you, Chaz. And that's exactly what he did. Like, Marcus got 7 minutes. He didn't score, so he decided to give Chaz some run in the fourth quarter, and I think it did pay off. Have a comment. Trae Young was traded to Washington. I did see that, and I'm going to have to actually remake the part of my trade target video that is releasing tomorrow. One of the players that I had included as a target for the Pistons was actually Corey Kispert because he fit into the Pistons trade exception. But the Trae Young trade is just so random to me. I'm kind of surprised more teams weren't like at least somewhat interested on a surface level. But Trae Young to Washington is going to be hard to get used to because he's been in Atlanta for so long. Atlanta gets CJ McCollum and they get Corey Kispert. I'm sure there are some draft picks that are involved. But I don't know if they've been released, what draft picks were attached in that deal. If there were any, I've just assumed that they were draft picks. But yeah, Trae Young to the Wizards is just weird. Don't really know what Washington is trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to accelerate their rebuild. I don't know if they think they're like maybe Trae Young, Alex Sarr, and one more piece away from competing in the East the way it is. But hey, man, good for Atlanta trying to, retool and build around Jalen Johnson because they have won games with that core of Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander Walker, Dyson Daniels. So Atlanta is still kind of like middle of the pack Eastern Conference team, but it'll be interesting to see what they do from here on out because a lot of the moves that they made during the offseason, I don't really think have like paid off the way that I think a lot of the media was hyping them up during the summer. I don't know if you guys remember, a lot of people are ranking the Hawks above the Pistons in preseason rankings in terms of like Eastern Conference playoff seeding. Like I saw like the Hawks 4, Pistons 5 because they added Kristaps Porzingis, who just has not played because he's been sick and injured. And Nickeil Alexander Walker and Luke Kennard. Like I still remember those certain national media members on their podcast saying, yeah, I got Atlanta over the Pistons. But I rambled for a little bit. I apologize. Marquez has a comment, 3 starters out, and the Pistons continue to find a way. Yeah, I mean, next man up mentality. I think that's kind of been the motto this year of just, if a starter's out or 2 starters out or tonight, 3 starters are out, next man up mentality. Javonte Green was really huge. He's been huge during these past couple of games of stepping up and getting more of a run. Same with Danis. But I think we know by now, like the biggest strength of this team is their depth. JB said it very early on during preseason that this is the deepest team that he's actually been a part of. And I'm starting to agree with them because like it doesn't really matter if they're out a starter or 2 or 3. They still find ways to compete and they still find ways to win games. And you love that. Red Barrett has a comment about Isaiah Stewart. Stu belongs in the All-Star game over Cat or Siakam. That's a hot take if I've ever heard one. But I do think Stu does deserve some recognition and some love. I don't know if he's going to get in over a Karl Anthony Towns because New York Knicks fans vote like crazy. They have multiple players in the top 20 in the fan voting so far. Pascal Siakam, I know the Pacers are having a down year. I don't really know if Siakam will make it. But I would be really surprised if the Pistons didn't have more than one player at All-Star Weekend. I know right now the votes are 3 for 1, but Kate Cunningham is the only representation for the Pistons in the fan voting right now. Jalen Duren hasn't even cracked the top 20 in votes. I don't know what other player that you would really want to try to send. Maybe Stu, like you mentioned, maybe Duren. But I know when the Cavs last year, when they were the number 1 seed, they had multiple players make the All-Star team. So I hope the Pistons at least get 2. I think they need at least 2, being the number 1 seed and the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. Larry Jackson, we need to consolidate our great guard depth for power forward. Ship out 2 for 1. Pick any of LeVert, Robinson, Sasser, Ivy, Lanier. I think the difficult issue with that is other teams would have to want what you have. And when you look around the league with forwards, I think a lot of Pistons fans, when they look at forwards, like I think automatically they would think of Lauri Markkanen, but you can think smaller. There are some power forwards out there that can shoot threes, rebound, and play defense. But the issue with that is they're on teams that have a lot of guard depth. I think one player in particular that probably um, would make sense for the Pistons is on the Lakers. Rui Hachimura would make sense for the Pistons. He's on an expiring $18 million deal, but I thought the Lakers want to give him up. The Lakers probably want more 3-and-D wings. That's why they've been in constant contact with the Pelicans for either Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Obviously, I agree with you, Larry, that the guard depth on this team is very deep, and the power forward depth, I think, is an area where I think they can improve. Now, whether they improve it at the deadline or whether Trajan improves it this free agency or even the draft, I'm not really sure. I don't really think that there's a lot of power forwards out there that could kind of be coveted for our guards. I think you would have to give up someone of equal value. And I think I probably would just hold off because I don't really see a whole lot of power forwards that make a whole lot of sense to break up, multiple, guard depth pieces that we have. Adam, we should feel very, very good about how this season has unfolded. If we zoom out and think about how much this is the best case scenario, given what we were experiencing 1 to 2 years ago. Crazy. 100% agree. I mean, 2 years ago, this was a team that was going through that crazy losing streak with Monty Williams, and it didn't really seem like there was a direction. There was multiple conversations of, do they keep this core? Do they just trade everyone and start over and go through a whole nother rebuild? But I think what Tom Gores did was the right decision. Moving on from Troy Weaver, moving on from Monty Williams. I really don't blame Troy too much. I think there are certain things that he did really well. I think, getting the young core that you have, a lot of those guys are responsible for this turnaround right now. But I think Troy's biggest, weakness as a GM was just trying to put pieces together that fit and gel. I thought he was very good at drafting. Obviously, the Killian Hayes pick does sting a little bit, but it got you Cade Cunningham in the end, and I think a lot of Pistons fans are happy with that. But yeah, if you kind of just zoom out and zoom back in of like where the Pistons are at and how JB came in and changed the culture, in my personal opinion, back to like what Pistons fans were used to of a tough defensive-minded team that goes out and competes night in and night out. I think as a Piston fan, you're really excited. You're extremely excited with this season. Last year, I think we're like, okay, if we can make the play-in, we get to 6th seed. We triple our win total. This year, they're at 20, I think, was that 28 wins tonight? So who knows? I still think they're probably a 50-plus win team. I know there are definitely a lot of people that feel that way. I mean, even like when you look at MVP odds right now, right? Like MVP odds, Cade Cunningham is up there with SGA and Nikola Jokic right now on FanDuel. The last time I looked at it, like he's in the top 3 or 4 of MVP odds. Now, will Cade win MVP? I'm not entirely sure. But when you keep winning games and you're the number 1 seed, like that's everything that the media always tells people. Like if you want to be MVP, you got to win games. You got to be a number 1 seed. You got to put the team on your back, and Cade does that. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen. But just the turnaround, like you said, it's incredible. And I'm happy for those guys that were on that 28-game losing streak team, getting to feel all the success with the wins that come with it. Billy Bob has a question. Looking towards Saturday's game against the Clippers, what kind of adjustments do you think they will make? We have to beat them at home after getting owned in LA. Irony, they just got owned by the Knicks. So I think with the Clippers, what the Pistons have to do is they have to find ways where you're not going to stop Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. Either you're going to make it difficult for them to get their shots, because they're still going to get their shots. They're still going to get to the free throw line. You just have to make it difficult when you're guarding them. I think what you're going to see is you're not going to see Tobias Harris on Kawhi Leonard because he won't be available. You're going to see a lot of Asar Thompson, probably a lot of Ron Holland, Javonte Green. So just throwing multiple bodies at him, making sure you make everything difficult. I think the thing with the Clippers that they do really well is they're a very good defensive team. You're going to have to move the ball. You can't have a night like tonight where, there's possessions in the half court where, the ball wasn't moving and they're just trying to get into the paint. It's like every other possession. Like, you got to move the ball. You have to shoot the ball well from three. And I think that's how you beat the Clippers, because even though their record doesn't suggest they're a good team, they're very well coached. They're a very good defensive team, and you just have to take advantage of moving the ball and getting them out of position and try to run the ball as much as possible if there are running opportunities. But it should be a really good game at home on Saturday. I think a lot of Pistons fans are going to be really excited to go to that game. Like you mentioned, after Kawhi dropped 55 on the Pistons and, Cade had that early foul trouble. If I remember that game correctly, like, he didn't score a single point in the first half. Then he had 29 in the second half. But that Clipper game to me, I think is definitely a game the Pistons want to get back and kind of, at least split the season series with LA. RVK, I wonder if a Tobias, LeVert, and a pick swap is enough for Michael Porter Jr. I don't think so. I really don't. I see a lot of Pistons fans talk about that. I know I was talking with someone in a Detroit Pistons Facebook group right now about how Brooklyn is rebuilding. They want to get off Michael Porter Jr.'s money. But, like, if I look at it from a Brooklyn Nets perspective and where they're at, like, why would they want an expiring Tobias and a Karis LeVert? Like, if you want to get off MPG's Michael Porter Jr.'s money, sure, if you just want to salary dump him. But, like, if I'm Brooklyn, I'm trying to get the most I possibly can for a plus asset. Like, Michael Porter Jr. is a plus asset. I know I had a Brooklyn Nets podcaster who I work with at Believe, and, the conversation we had, he's just like, I'd love a Ron Holland. And I don't really think he's out of bounds. Like, I think you have to include either a Jalen Duren or a Ron Holland. I don't think you can get away with just throwing Tobias and LeVert in a pick or two, because our picks are going to be in the 20s. They're not that valuable. I honestly think Brooklyn can get a pretty good haul for Michael Porter Jr. It just really depends how much the Pistons are willing to go into their asset pool in terms of draft capital and the type of young players that they have. I think MPJ does kind of fix what a lot of us have been talking about in terms of more three-point shooting, a possible secondary option, but it just really depends what the Pistons want to do. Me personally, I probably wouldn't pull the trigger for a Michael Porter Jr. trade. If I did have to, guess, I think that they don't really make a big splashy move like that. I see Doc Barber trading Jaden or Ron is a non-starter. I'd rather not trade a thing. I get it. I get it, right? Even like people trying to include Jaden Ivey in a Michael Porter Jr. trade. Like, Brooklyn just drafted, 4 guards? Like, why would they want Jaden Ivey? They have Cam Thomas, who's a better version of Jaden Ivey in terms of just scoring the basketball right now. Jaden Ivey, in my opinion, is still getting used to coming back after breaking his leg and having arthroscopic surgery on his knee. I still think, the burst at times is there, but settling for shots a little bit. But it's a whole thing with MPJ. I don't think the Pistons are going to trade for him. I'd be surprised if they did. Case cracked. Troy Weaver didn't want to win. He was gunning for Wemby. Didn't work out for them, and they were dead last. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not defending the Troy Weaver era by any means. All I was saying is, he was good at evaluating talent. Case. That's about it. Free agency, I thought it was a swing and misses after swing and misses. trades, they were kind of like okay, and the stretching and waving was weird as well. But I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast, you guys. I'm going to have to remake part of my trade target video because, full transparency, the Washington Wizards target I had was Corey Kispert, and I have to redo the Denver Nuggets one as well. But I will see you guys on Saturday. Be on the lookout for the Trade Target podcast that we'll be releasing on Friday. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I landscaped all 29 teams and came up with one trade target for the Detroit Pistons to possibly look at. Just a PSA on that video. I kept it within range of where, you're not overspending, but I think it'll be a fun podcast for you guys to listen to as we get, closer to that February 5th deadline. But I will see you guys later. Hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.